Okay, well, welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends. In fact, it's more of a case of it never starts. Kieran is back down there in sunny Portsmouth, and it was sunny today, sunny Portsmouth, and his internet is pretty crap. So Daddy is going to have to buy a booster. Okay, just to add to the price of things. What was I saying? Oh, yes, I remember what I said previous before we had to turn it off because Kieran keeps freezing, even in the sun, was Wycombe's game, of course, was cancelled against that big team, Ipswich, who did so well in the UEFA Cup because the game had to be cancelled because the now big Wycombe have 3 international players, not Ipswich. I don't think they've even managed to buy any international players. Do you know how many players Ipswich have bought in this window, Kieran?
It was like 20 or something.
20, not a bad guess. 19. 19. Yeah. I have the list of the number that left, and when that was 22. So they do have a smaller squad. Squad, that's a nice word. The only difference is all the players that left were either on loan or their contracts were finished and nobody wanted them. Whereas,
talking of loans, sorry I interrupt, but talking of loans, so I thought of the facts that you would like. Do you know the only team in League One not to have a loan player?
Well, it can't be Wycombe, surely.
It's Wycombe.
Blimey.
For to test your ability of whether you knew whether we had any loan players. We are the only one, and yet we've thrived off it for the last however many years.
Well, that's because we only actually had about 5 players. So the rest of it was built on loans. Yeah. And amazing. So Ipswich, all their loan players are gone, and everybody else whose contracts come to an end have gone. They sold, I think, possibly 1 player for any money, and they're not quite sure how much. Something like that. It's 1 to 4. No, that's right. It was more like 4. I'm afraid I'm lying there. 4 players, I think they sold, but it's all question marks. Nobody actually knows. They sold the one player I'm talking about. They sold for $1 million.
Not bad.
Not bad. And then they've bought these 19 for cash. They're not in for nothing. They haven't picked up players for nothing. They've spent. And that's why, if you look at the net cost, they've spent money. We're going to be looking at these sort of things. We're going to spend a while looking at transfers. We obviously don't have Wycombe really to talk about, other than I actually have come to the conclusion I can't really go to the Manchester City game.
Oh,
I can't. I'm supposed to be at work.
Some R's or something.
I've got to be at work, and I did think about phoning in ill, but I'd have to phone myself because I'm the boss, and I wouldn't believe me. So I'm going to go and watch
COVID.
I'm going to go and watch Wycombe thrash Oxford on Saturday instead.
That's all right. That's a good excuse.
Yeah. So what I want you to do, Kieran, I should have asked you before I press record, was have a quick look up while answering these questions, because we've got to do the 5 questions. Look, I want you to have a quick look at who's come in and who's gone out in this window for Wycombe Wanderers. Okay?
Yeah,
and at the same time, now your friend who thinks I ask the same question over and over, what's the question?
It's the Thierry Henry question of who has the most assists in the Premier League season.
Okay. Just for your friend, what's his name?
Ben,
this one's for you, mate. Who has the most assists in the Premier League? So let's see if we can get one right. Who do you think it is, Ben? Kieran, who do you think it is?
I think it might be Thierry Henry.
I think
he got
you're
20.
right. Well
I think he
done,
did get 20.
Kieran and Ben.
Yeah.
Right, now we'll move on.
He'll be really excited that he's got a shout out in this,
Yeah.
It'll be loving life.
Yeah. Okay, we'll give his name and address away and telephone number, shall we, to all those girls watching.
He has a girlfriend.
All right, we won't.
Girlfriend, it's fine.
Right. Okay, round 4. Yeah, 4. No, it's round 5, Kieran. 5 this season. Right. Who are the only... Here's another one for Ben, by the way. It's a different question.
He does say he normally gets more than me, so...
Does he?
Yeah.
Right. Well, he's going to get half of this one, so there's a clue. Who are the only 2 French players to have scored over 100 Premier League goals?
Oh, well, I think one of them might be Thierry Henry. Who could the other one be? Who's French? Don't think Giroud would have hit it, would he? He wouldn't have quite got there. Or would he?
Would he? I don't know any French player called Woody.
No, he's from Toy Story.
Yeah.
Oh, there's such an... Anelka.
Very good. I'm impressed. It was Anelka. Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Who is the only Armenian player to have made appearances in the Premier League? Now, there's a toughie. I can't even say the name.
No, it's recent. It's Henrik Mkhitaryan.
Well done. It means I don't have to say no. Yeah. It was. Yes, Henrik. What was it?
Don't even try. Mkhitaryan.
Mkhitaryan. Very good. So you got 2 out of 2. Who is the only player from Kenya to have played in the Premier League?
Kenya.
Oh, really?
Oh, I feel like it's a decently well-known person as well. Is he well-known? Or do you know him? If you know him, then he's well-known. Not really.
I think I might.
I don't know. I'll be honest.
Couldn't tell you who he played for. Victor Wanyama?
Oh, is he Kenyan? Oh, he played for Spurs and Southampton. Right. He was a CDM.
Okay.
No, he was decent.
Right. Who is the youngest ever player to have made a hat-trick of assists? He did this against Watford at the age of 20 years and 143 days. Do you need me to read that out again? Who is the youngest player to have made a hat-trick of assists? He did this against Watford when he was 20.
I don't think it's going to be Thierry Henry because I don't think he was in the Premier League at the age of 20. Is it Trent? I don't think it is
Trent.
Is it Trent?
It is Trent. Enough. Yeah. Yeah, well done. Well done.
I can even tell you the game that was in, but I don't want to be that sad.
Well, it was against Watford. I told you that.
Well, it was against Watford, but we won 5.
Well, by at least 3-0,
I think. I think we won 5-0.
One player. Last question. One player has a record 13 Premier League winners medals. Can you name the player? One player has a record 13 Premier League winners medals.
Assume it's Ryan Giggs.
You are correct. Ryan Giggs, 13. Wow.
Gerrard is fuming at that.
Yeah. That's something, isn't it?
Mm.
I mean, that is impressive. That is impressive. Okay,
it's very impressive for an average player, in my opinion.
Average Welsh player.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to stick with the international bits, don't we? Okay. Well, shall we move straight on then to England? We'll deal with England and then we'll come back to all those fascinating sort of subjects of where players have gone and the different teams we're going to see out there now the window has shut. Okay, England. Did you watch the first game, the game on whenever it was?
On Thursday. Can't remember who we played, quite honestly. Hungary, so we played. No, I did not watch it. I unfortunately am not overly interested in England football, quite honestly.
That's not very good.
But then it was overshadowed by the Hungarian fans, wasn't it? There wasn't a lot. I couldn't tell what had happened because you didn't really hear too much about it.
Okay, I'm going to be very careful with this. All right, I have no intention of tripping up and ending up with 101 people writing in. Admittedly, only about 40 get past 5 minutes, and that includes Ben, because he won't be listening to this, will he?
No,
Because
no.
we finished the question.
He only likes a quiz.
Yeah. Can we just say I'm going to cut a bit out from earlier, so we're going to do it now, and I'm going to put this bit in instead. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, we did have a little chat about the problem with the abuse, the racial abuse on the pitch. Went on a bit too much about it. Can I just say, Hungary themselves put in reports saying how dreadful it was that the flare was thrown on, how dreadful it was that cups were thrown with ice in, etc. What they didn't mention was the racial abuse. That, I think, is shocking. They just shoved that under a carpet. I think it's appalling that
I say, you might want to not say we went on about it for a bit too long because people might get the wrong impression.
Okay, we'll leave what Kieran has just said in there. I rambled is the way to word it. I rambled rather than make big points of any sort. You know where you stand. I know where I stand. I know what I think is right and wrong. The people, in my opinion, that abuse people for whatever reason, be it race, sex, etc., etc., I think they are wrong. That is where I stand. I think it's a shame football can't clear itself up, but I think it's a national problem, and not just Hungary's, it's English as well. There is booing at people taking the knee in this country. There were dreadful singing anti-war songs when we played Germany. As soon as Saka missed his penalty, he was flooded with English people with racial abuse. Do not point a finger at Hungary. We have enough. I think Southgate was dead right. Both Hungary and England have a lot to sort out. How we do that, I don't know. I don't know. I know what I think is right. All I can say is when I come across somebody who has a difference of opinion to me on racism, I will tell them what I think and why. And that's the only way you will educate people. Don't expect it to happen by your football team educating anybody. Certainly, I don't think you can expect politicians to do it, from what I've seen of what they've written and what they've said. That's down to you. I'm afraid it's you that have got to educate people. Stop pointing a finger and telling everybody else to do it. That's what I would say. I got annoyed at half time and at the end of the game with Mr. Commentators, as per normal, when they were talking about they upped the pace in the second half. I don't think they did. They played exactly the same game. They played the right game in the first half. They played the right game in the second half. And eventually one ball goes in the net. And then so did number 2, 3 and 4. And I think they were wrong when they even suggested the game changed. It didn't change. The other Hungary got worn out and tired, and that's the truth. It had nothing to do with England upping their game. They started well. They carried on playing well. They carried on playing the right game, and it paid off. Won't all the time. It reminded me of Liverpool playing Burnley. And that's what it was. 11 players behind the ball.
It's just consistent trying to get through a stubborn defence, isn't it?
Today was different. Today was a bad England game in my book. We won by the same amount, 4-0, but I thought today England looked shocking. I thought spent most of the time on the halfway line, most of the time with our backs to Andorra's goal. Now let's sum this up, okay? How big are Andorra? I'll tell you, they have a population about half of High Wycombe. That's how big Andorra are. Half the size of High Wycombe. And England played with their backs to the goal, kicking the ball around for 85% of the game and had scored 1 goal after 60 minutes and had to bring on the big boys to be able to manage to score the second. I think that is not a very good game.
No. I saw some coverage on Twitter of what our game looks like, and apparently, because of course Trent played in midfield.
Yes.
Southgate wants to try out the Trent in midfield thing that it seems a lot of people have been crying out for a very long time. But then he decided to play him at the front of the midfield, almost as like an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Which, use your brain, Gareth. If you're like, people have only said that Trent should be in the midfield because of his passing ability. The way you get to show off your passing ability is if you're the holding midfielder. So he should have been playing as the number 6, kind of where maybe Fabinho plays for Liverpool or where Rodri plays for Man City. It makes no sense playing him further up. It makes 0 sense playing him further up. In the first half, he was non-existent, Trent. I felt really sorry for him.
Well, I felt sorry for Bamford because he kept doing everything right. As a number 9, he did everything he needed to do. What he didn't do was score or have a shot. And that's because he never had the ball to be able to score or have a shot. How can your number 9 never get the football when we're playing Andorra? And, you know, when he brought on his 3 superstars in the second, after 60 minutes, what amazed me was he needed 2 of them for Bamford. He could have left Kane on the bench and just brought on the other 2. And Bamford would have got a hat-trick because suddenly the game's pace started moving. And I was thinking, I felt really sorry for Bamford. You stuck him on with a crap, a
theme.
Negative. It was so negative. It was so slow. And that was the England you sort of look at. Mings, how many times? Why? Please explain this, because I noticed it almost straight away, and I watched it throughout the game. And he does this every time. He gets the ball. Okay, he passes it. Let me get this right. To his right, sideways. When that player gets the ball, he points to the player in front of that player saying, pass it to him, pass it to him, pass it to him. The ball goes back to him along the halfway line and he'll pass it back and then point forward, forward, forward. Ball goes back to him. He passes it sideways and he tells him, pass it forward, forward. Why doesn't Mings pass the ball forward when he recognises everybody else should? I don't understand. Can he not kick the ball forward? Is his foot in some sort of, mould as a sideways kick? He can't play football.
Well, is it that he can't play football? Is that this system that we've integrated into the England team? I could be either, couldn't it? But I did see a thing that one of the YouTubers was talking about the other day. We said it throughout the whole of the Euros, didn't we? About how negative we were and why can't we use this golden generation of attacking midfielders that we have? Why can't we get them all into a team? Like we have so many crazy players in our team, and yet we don't create many chances. And how is that a thing?
In
It's
the
absurd.
three goals, the first 3 goals we scored, we'd had 3 shots.
Yeah.
And that was 70 minutes against Andorra. 3 shots.
Well, isn't this the thing? It's fine being efficient with your shots, but sometimes you're not going to be so efficient. Is that not why we lost the Euros final?
Yeah,
because we could have gone on to score 3 or 4, but we just sat on the one.
Kane missed another sitter, and I'll finish with this on England, and that was they said, I bet he's happy he was offside, so it doesn't count his miss.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, well, it does, because he was offside, and he's a centre forward for England, and he was caught offside. Shouldn't be caught offside. He's the captain and supposedly one of the best strikers in the world, and he just stood offside. That's bad, isn't it?
I think your reaction might be a bit over the top, a little bit, but I can understand what you mean.
So saying, he's happy he was only offside.
Yeah.
I don't see why he should be happy that he was offside and missed.
No. No, I
At least
agree.
when Lingard was offside, at least he put it away, even though he was offside.
Mm. It's obviously not a good thing to be offside, but you can kind of understand what they mean, but in essence, he is offside and he did miss. So I can understand what you mean.
Okay. Any more to say about England?
Please, Gareth, put some decent players on the pitch in a decent formation and let them play football. That's about it.
And please, if you're going to play football like you did against Andorra, you need a colouring book for the fans and some crayons, because they obviously needed something else to entertain them, didn't they? Mm. Which is why they started making paper aeroplanes throughout the game. And what we don't want to end up is a bloody Mexican wave coming back. So give them a colouring book, a puzzle book to use, not at half time, but while they're bored watching England play football.
Not wrong.
Okay. Now for the entertainment. We've left it till now.
Yeah.
PSG don't need Messi. United don't need Ronaldo. Am I right or wrong?
You're probably right.
We'll do the Ronaldo. 2021. Ronaldo is centre forward and gets constantly involved with play. He's the top goal scorer in their league, the Juventus's league. Mm. But how did he do it? Well, he scored 6 penalties. That's the first thing. The second thing was the quantity of headers. And most of his goals were scored from the penalty box. What does he do, though, without the ball? Did you know in Europe, this is Europe, I'm not talking about his league or his team, I'm talking about Europe, he is almost bottom of the list for pressing players without the ball. And that's the same as Messi, in fact. They're both very low down. They don't do anything without the ball, either of them. Okay? But on the positive side for him, he scored 100 goals in 3 seasons. With 3 different managers. But on a negative, Juventus are pleased to get rid of him, actually, because although he scored over 20 goals, they the way they look at it is he's prevented Juventus scoring even more than 20 because all the players just look at him as God and pass him the ball. So how are United going to deal with him, Kieran?
It's interesting, wasn't it? I mean, he completely overshadowed Juventus as a football club because Juventus were on their way to becoming one of the big European clubs. They got Ronaldo thinking this is the pinnacle, this is what we need, and went completely the opposite direction because they turned to Ronaldo FC as opposed to Juventus FC. And he's got to go into a club with, probably egos on par with his. I mean, he's got Bruno to deal with in terms of penalties and free kicks, which, like, it sounds like one of those things like, oh, that will cause a bit of a rift, but it actually will, because they'll both want the penalties and the free kicks. And, well, at the moment, one is definitely better than the other, and it's not Ronaldo. And then you've also obviously got Pogba as well.
Pogba, in theory, will be playing behind him.
Pogba, yeah.
Where does Pogba go if he's playing behind him? Does he just have to keep slotting in Ronaldo every time? Because Ronaldo's bigger than Pogba. Hey, how Pogba going to cope with his, I'm big, I'm Superman. And suddenly he's just been degraded, hasn't he?
Well, I mean, Pogba obviously came in back in, 2015-16 as being the biggest player at United. But he's I'd put him even further down than Maguire at this point. He's going down quickly.
Where was Maguire today for England? I forgot about him. Sorry, go on.
He didn't play, did he?
No.
But I think his link up with Ronaldo could be quite good. It does have the potential to be very decent. But I think United have too many players in that kind of attacking side of the pitch, because they'll obviously have
10 strikers.
They'll have Sancho. They have to play Sancho because they spent 75 million on him. You assume Ronaldo up front, but then you've got your Greenwoods, Fernandez, Cavani, someone else I've forgotten. Martial somehow is still with the club. So there's so many more. There'll be a lot of attacking players on the pitch that won't allow Pogba to do any attacking himself. And so he may be pushed back into his CDM role. And he won't like that whatsoever. No. I think Ronaldo will provide them with... It'll increase their level by like 5% maybe, but that's not a lot. It won't increase their level by that much whatsoever.
Trouble is, against Norwich, say, isn't this where people always make that comment, now, no disrespect to Norwich, but you're crap. So, Norwich being crap, I'm not going to say no disrespect. Here's a bit of disrespect. Norwich, you're crap and you're going down.
Is that disrespectful or just being factual?
Yeah, I mean, they said that today. No disrespect to Andorra, but England should score more than one. Because Andorra are crap. Norwich. Against Norwich, United should score lots and lots of goals, and Ronaldo should be banging them in. Header, penalty. But what happens when they play Liverpool, Chelsea, City? Won't they just be carrying Ronaldo? Because, as I said, if you look at the league table of number 9s and who gets involved without the ball, I mean, I could give you all the facts and figures. People get bored with that, so I won't give you all those facts. Trust me, he does not. He puts in less tackles as a number 9 than something like about 95% of European football teams in the top leagues. Okay? The top 5 leagues, that is. He is at the bottom for getting involved without the ball.
Yeah.
Can they carry him in those games and play with 10 players?
Well, I don't think their system means that Ronaldo necessarily has to do too much pressing, regardless. But I mean, surely they know that when signing him. He is 36. He's got a season of him being very decent. He's still very good. He is still very good. They have a season of him being very good, and then maybe another season of him being good. But realistically, if they want to win the league, they may need a better striker. Which sounds a bit unfair to him because he has been one of the best players to ever play football. But he doesn't have quite that edge, does he? Like you said about when he plays the top six, he's not going to win them the game.
No.
I don't think. It'll
They
have to
need
be
to
someone
win
else that
1-0,
wins.
don't they? They need to win 1-0.
Mm.
They need to keep the ball out and put one ball in the other net. They don't need the top goal scorer. They need a goal scorer that prevents the opposition scoring. That's what they need. What happens to Greenwood? What would you do?
Yeah.
We said this last week. We did mention this last week. But I feel a bit sorry for the poor bloke. I mean, he must wonder where he's going to go now. He's going to be on the bench, isn't he?
Mm. I think one thing with Greenwood that we haven't never really touched on, it's a bit unfair to him because the bloke is only 19 or 20 or whatever, but he's never really produced like the big games. He's always scored against, his finishing is incredible, but he's always scored against the lower league teams. And obviously United should be talking about winning the league at this point, and they need to beat the big six teams. But it does seem a bit unfair because he will never play in those big six games.
No.
Because if you got the choice of Ronaldo or Greenwood, I mean,
he's on the bench.
Solskjaer's not going to pick Greenwood, is he?
No,
he's not going to think about it.
I mean, all I've heard are comments about, it's really good for United. Greenwood will learn a lot from Ronaldo. What? What will he learn from him?
He may learn about movement within the box.
He's a different footballer.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, he scores all his goals from penalties and headers. Greenwood?
Finishing one-on-ones.
Greenwood plays out on the right-hand side and brings the ball in. That isn't what Ronaldo does.
No.
The thing, the comment I heard. Okay, now this is a funny one. This is a funny one because I've got to try and get my head back round what this means. I heard the comment that Ronaldo raises the ceiling, not the floor. And what we're talking about here is where they've got their top superstars, he takes it higher. But where they needed the midfield, the strength, the just up the lowest problems to up that, which is what needed. They'd got their ceiling. They just needed to raise the floor, improve the bottom. They've actually done the opposite. And they've raised the ceiling, so they've brought in another superstar, and their problem is in midfield. You've got Fred and Pogba. You need Declan Rice. They don't have a Declan Rice in there.
You do get the impression that's what they've done with all their summer signings. The only one that's potentially risen the floor a little bit, we're yet to see it, is Varane, because he is probably a better centre-back than Lindelof. But I don't think Sancho improves their team that much, if at all. And I don't think Ronaldo does that much, if at all.
No.
So I do fully agree.
They needed the Declan Rice, didn't they?
I thought it was very obvious for United for them to sign a CTM because that's all people complained about last season was them having Fred and McTominay in the middle. And yet
so they've left the weakness. They've left the weakness. They've left the hole. And they've just, improved the front. I don't know.
They've bought the big names, haven't they?
They needed to actually trade sell Pogba for a Declan Rice type player, I think.
What, Pogba going to West Ham?
Yeah, I think that was the answer. Pogba going to West Ham. That would have been a laugh, wouldn't it?
That would have been funny.
Okay, so he's got the number 7 shirt then.
Mm.
That's interesting. Did you know for the first time for 20 years, we had a number 1 to 11 on the football pitch?
Oh, yeah. Burnley did
Burnley
it, didn't they?
played number 1 to 11. They don't reckon it was they swapped shirts around and that was they wanted to. I believe it just happened that way. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked. But yeah, so we had a 1 to 11 where we always knew that, you know, your number 6 was centre midfield and your number 7 was a right winger, etc., and your number 11 was left-footed on the left-hand side. We always knew that, just as you know, number 9 is your centre forward. But we had the lot sorted. So to actually, and that was, you swap shirts. Now, here's your interesting thing about shirt numbers, okay? Because in American football, players, when they change teams, because Ronaldo is known as being number 7, yeah?
Yeah.
Name a few other players that are known by their number.
I mean, Messi's brand is known as being the number 10 one. Trent 66, that's quite a famous thing. Neymar being number 11. Is that what I'm supposed to get?
No, I was just asking for you, like Gerrard number 8, for instance.
Gerrard number 8, Lampard number 8.
Before then, and
17. Don't be silly.
Everybody knows these, and like in American football, everybody knows their superstars by their number. When they change teams in American football, they don't get given a shirt. The club don't decide. It doesn't happen like that. If a player's got the number 8 and you want to be 8, you pay him into his bank account. You buy your shirt number. And if he says, no, I'm number 8, you say an extra million. Well, I don't know. I'll give you me Rolls Royce. Oh, all right, then you can have the Rolls Royce and the million. I want the million. Yeah. And then you get that numbered shirt back. Okay. Now, how's that? Do you think that's a good idea?
I can't imagine that would have happened at United with Ronaldo, but it would be a pretty good way of doing it. But I can imagine it causes too many rifts within a squad. You imagine if Cavani said no, that would have been funny.
It would, wouldn't it?
I mean, Messi's had to go with number 30 at PSG, isn't he?
Has he?
He hasn't got number 10, he got number 30.
Excellent. But the interesting thing is, it's like my first comment when Ronaldo went there was they'll get their money back because of the advertising on Ronaldo and, you know, there's a quantity of shirts that they sell. But he would own the number, so he would get some of the money, for instance. But also, in all advertising, it's no longer teams being advertised, it's players. So when we go on to see, you know, all these old players like Trent who need a shave once every 3 months, you have players from across different teams. They're no longer selling the team. They're selling players, aren't they? Players are that. It's players online. It's not teams online. You don't look up Liverpool on Twitter. You look up the player on Twitter. It's players are now advertising, selling them. You're no longer selling the team. It doesn't matter what team you play for. It's the
players are more famous. Well, talking of marketing, that's what Gerrard thinks Ronaldo has done this move for. When Gerrard was asked about it in an interview, he was like, well, Messi's had all the publicity from his move to PSG, and Ronaldo still wants to be within a chance to win the Ballon d'Or, so he's gone to United to create that even bigger publicity to get Messi out of it. And he actually said that, which I thought was just like, oh, Stephen, you probably shouldn't say that, but fair enough.
Okay, we'll finish on United, only just to say, not I want to put him down or anything, but everybody jumps up and down about who's taking the free kicks and corners. Just to mention, Rashford has actually only scored 1 out of his last 45 direct free kicks. Now, moving on. Wickham's transfer. Have you found that?
Yeah, boy.
Who we got coming in?
So coming in, we have had. Oh, that's really helpful, isn't it? They don't tell me who's coming and who's gone out. It just tells me. Oh no, it does. Ignore me. So we've had Jack Wakely from Chelsea on a free transfer. He'll be part of the B team setup. We've had Pendlebury, who's played a few games for us. He came from Reading. Scowen came from Sunderland. Kai, the winger, came from Blackpool. TJ DeBar, who was our Gibraltar international, who scored for Gibraltar, came from Lincoln Red Imps, famous Champions League team. Connor Parsons from a team called Ryanair from Iceland, who I don't know. Adam Prisbeck from Ipswich, goalkeeper. Tyler Dickinson, goalkeeper from QPR. We've had Vokes from Stoke. Hanlon from Bristol Rovers, stuff you Bristol Rovers. And Curtis Anderson from Eastbourne, who's a goalkeeper. So he's had 3 goalkeepers this summer, despite not really needing one. And going out, we've had, Curtis Anderson, who's gone on loan. Ekpezu, Charles, Cashget, Phillips, Allsop, Yates, Patterson, Samuel, and Fred.
Do you know Patterson's scored 3 goals already?
Was he?
Yeah.
What, for Harrogate in League 2?
Is it Harrogate? Yeah, he's 3 goals up so far. Not bad going, is it? Shame he couldn't have.
Don't think he scored for us, did he?
No. But they did say it was all going to be a nice and quiet transfer window. Hasn't quite been that, has it? Now, transfers are really a business, and it's all about net spend. How much money goes in, how much money goes out. Different approaches from different teams. Now, Chelsea had an awful lot to sell, to be honest, which gave them the money for Lukaku. But COVID has affected the Championship and lower divisions far more than the Premier League. Last year, there were 22 players sold to the Premier League from the Championship. This year, there's only been 7. Championship teams have held on to their players because they can't afford to get them in. But the Premier League's done pretty well, in fact. Did you know, Kieran, the Premier League, the spent money, as in the profits, I'm not talking about net spend, as in I spend £10 and I get £10 back, so it's naught. I'm not talking about the naught. I'm talking about we sold a player for 10 but bought one for 20, therefore we spent 10. Okay, yes. I'm talking about the spend. The spend, the Premier League spent 10 times more than any other league in Europe. And the next nearest was La Liga. That means
don't have any money.
That the rest of Europe is broke. Whereas the Premier League have spent because they're expecting it back. They still see success round the corner. And they still see it's important to keep piling the money out there. And they expect a return on that. So what's going to happen in Spain and Italy, etc.? This so-called big Super League they were talking about. I mean, surely that Super League is going to be made out of Premier League teams only when they look at this in the future. In 5 years' time, it's going to be the Premier League anyway, isn't it?
It'll be the Premier League teams that dominate it, won't it? I mean, it's talking about the Champions League now, isn't it? If a Premier League team doesn't win it this season, maybe apart from PSG, then it'd be a travesty, wouldn't it? Our teams are so much further along than everyone else's.
They're going backward. All apart from PSG, the rest are going backwards.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious ones: Spain, Barcelona, Real Madrid. They've definitely gone backwards. Juventus, definitely not what they were. Bayern Munich, maybe they're still within a shout, but they haven't won it in a very long time.
Do you know West Ham and Brighton spent more than all these teams abroad?
Yeah.
I mean,
how's that?
I mean, mad, isn't it? The Premier League will be the Super League.
It's because we were talking about, or always have talked about whether Man City would make our league a one-team league, just like the rest of these other countries' leagues. But now is football becoming just a one league sport as such? Because do the others attract any interest apart from within their own country whatsoever?
I don't think so anymore. I really don't think so anymore. I think the Premier League is taking over. And it's
French
good.
League,
I don't know. What?
I don't know how it's happened because, I mean, in recent years, the quality in the Premier League has been much, much lower. It's only been recently that Leicester won it. But in this year or two in which COVID's happened, it's gone soaring high.
Yeah, well, COVID, yeah. I mean, some things have gone downhill and backward, but the Premier League has grown.
Has it taken advantage of other leagues' demises, maybe?
I think very possibly. And in the end, it starts with TV money. How much clubs spent, not spent, but how much net spend was it? Okay, you ready? Here's your top. Here's your 20. Yeah. Your top team spent 123 million was Arsenal. Coming in close second, which is usually what happens, is United coming in second in everything. 115 million. City with 83 million. This is after, getting rid of and coming in. West Ham, 66. Leicester, 55. Leeds, 53. Crystal Palace, 51. Tottenham, 30. Newcastle, 26. Norwich, 25. Burnley, 20. Liverpool, 13. Watford, 2. Brighton made a profit of 0.4 million. Chelsea made a profit of 3.9. Wolves, a profit of 4.6. Aston Villa, profit of 5. Everton, profit of 5.4. Brentford, a 13.5 profit. And Southampton, 18.9 profit. Now, you'll find out who did good business and who did bad, depending where they end up in the table, really, from that. I think some of them did well. Who do you think was the best?
Has to be Chelsea, doesn't it?
They got rid of
They got a lot of deadwood out, didn't they? And for a lot of money as well. I mean, getting 35 million for Tammy Abraham is very, very solid. I think we got 30 million pounds for Kurt Zuma as well to West Ham. That's ridiculous considering how I don't think he's particularly fantastic, and I don't think he will be for West Ham. I mean, the fact they make a profit and they've got Lukaku and then Sal Niguez from Atletico Madrid, who will probably walk straight into the midfield. They've bought 2 starters and got rid of none.
I was gonna do something on Newcastle because they come in 9th. They spent 26 million. But they had a lot of players that they wanted to get rid of, but nobody wanted them. So they couldn't sell anybody because nobody wanted to buy them. So they've ended up having to keep these players who they don't want and ended up with no money to go and spend. And then they bought 1 player for 20, as good as. And they wanted a lot more, but nobody wanted their players. So they had a dreadful time.
It's the same transfer plan as what Liverpool have, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sell and then buy. And both cocked up because nobody wanted their players.
Who else do you think did really well? Apart from Chelsea, who do you think spent well? I don't think United did, and I don't think Arsenal did. Do you think City they made 83? I mean, it don't matter, does it? They can just keep going, can't they?
No, not really.
West Ham 66.
But they spent 30 on Kurt Zuma, and I don't think that's a very bold signing. I mean, we may as well talk about Arsenal because they did spend the most out of anyone in Europe. They evidently had a plan of buying under 23 players, Ben White, Odegaard, Ramsdale. Are they what Arsenal need? Absolutely not. Absolutely
don't understand
not. Is it going to create those players? They're young players. Are they going to walk into a team with a spine and senior players that are going to teach them and kind of motivate them? Absolutely not.
What about Crystal Palace? 51. They didn't have a choice, did they? Didn't have any players.
Who have they bought?
Well, actually, they went and bought the top goal scorer in the Scottish League, a guy from Celtic.
Oh, Edward from Celtic. So that's an interesting one. That is interesting because you always kind of think, oh, will he or won't he play well if he comes to England? I'm trying to think of players who've come from Scotland to England and done well, and I can't think of many. So that would be interesting.
It's a gamble, isn't it? A definite gamble, that one.
Yeah, that's why no one's gone for Morelos from Rangers yet, because it's too much of a gamble.
Yeah, we'll see how this guy gets on. It'll be interesting to keep our eyes on him. And with that, I'd just like to really finish with saying we made comments about Match of the Day last week and how we think it needs a revamp. I've come to the conclusion, having seen that sports programme everybody criticised, Question of Sport criticised for changing it. Well, I've come to the conclusion we should give Match of the Day to Graham Norton and let him run it like he runs a Eurovision Song Contest, where he takes the mickey out of players who slip up and make mistakes, etc. I think that'd be far more entertaining. He's also very honest and will treat good football, if he recognises it, by saying it was good. And I think he's got about as much clue about football as the rest of them on that TV programme. What do you think, Kieran?
It'd be more entertaining, yeah. He'd probably be better at Match of the Day than Paddy McGuinness would be at Question of Sport. That's to say the least. And
with that, I think we'll finish with the quote, Paddy McGuinness. Well, Graham Norton would be better at Match of the Day than Paddy McGuinness at a Question of Sport.
Why don't you just call the YouTube title Graham Norton for Match of the Day or something like that?
I'll do that. Okay, Kieran, say goodbye.
Bye.
And I'll say goodbye. And I think this one, I've got a ton of editing to do. Lucky my wife goes back to work. So she won't.
Goodness.
Okay, see you, Kieran.
Have fun, mate.